Only the second episode, and we already get the title drop. We get to find out why Chitose is in the Ramune bottle. I think it's a cool concept. It's a really cool concept, which does make you kind of wonder what sort of direction the overall story can go. It sort of does paint this picture of this idea this guy has put himself in this kind of goal, this location that he puts himself into to protect himself, and yet that could be sort of a bad thing. The idea that he may have closed himself off too much that other people want in there and they can't get in there. The whole scene with Yuko really does stand out to me. And the idea that she wants to learn more about Saku. Saku's obviously saved her, and she's like, I hope that you'll open your heart to me at some point. That way I can talk to you about other things. There's other things that I want to talk to you about. She wants him bad. Obviously, she wants him bad. But it does sort of paint a picture that Yuko herself sees that Saku's closed off, and she wants him to open up more. Now, it could just be the concept of her wanting a relationship with him, and once they have a relationship, she can open up to him more, tell him a lot more other things that she's thinking about, that she's put a barrier up, knowing they're just friends right now. She wants more, but she can't have it yet. Until she can have that, she's going to close this off. She knows where that boundary is, and she wants that to be broke down. But again, it could play into the idea of him putting himself in that bottle. I protect myself by doing this. This is the thing that I seek out to do. I seek out the sky, just like the marble inside the bottle, to kind of guard himself from criticism and whatnot. Anyways, that was cool. But yes, I did love episode 2. I am happy that there's a lot here to really kind of discuss. This is what I was hoping for after I watched the first episode. This could be a series that I want to cover on a weekly basis, depending on how it does on the channel. But I think this is one of those ones that I think it can get a deep dive into. This is really getting into communication skills. It's getting into sort of insecurities that people have, breaking down barriers, the misconceptions that people have. I really do think this writer so far is doing a really good job of kind of painting the picture of, this is what's in light novels, this is what's in manga. Hey, these things that we all write, they're not really real. I like that whole idea of painting the picture of, yes, the popular kids and how they're evil and they do this and that, and how fiction is, well, fiction. You can't find life advice from a lot of this stuff, despite the fact that we're right now watching an anime that is from a novel. But anyways, let's dive into it. Opening up the episode with, yes, Saku arriving inside the room with Kenta. I mean, he's like, dude, you're breaking the law. Nope, I asked permission for your mother. He apologized to his bat before he puts it down, which that could technically play into his past. Got a little bit of a sense from the ED that there seems to be some sort of connection with him, possibly in baseball. Something bad happened in the past. His partner, Aibo, has always been with him. But of course, the immediate thing here, and it's kind of a play off to what he talked about in the previous episode, this is the point which breaking down the barriers happens. Okay, coming in there, okay, tell me what you're thinking. Sits down in front of Kenta, please vent. Tell me what's going on. And of course, it gets into the idea that Kenta sees that Saku has it great. That all the popular people, they all have it great. And I do love the fact that one of the first comments that Kenta makes is the idea that you guys reject us before you even learn about who we are as people. And I love that later on, of course, Saku does throw that back at him. You made a decision about us before you even knew us. You don't know who I am. You don't know who my friends are. And of course, after a while of talking to Saku, he finally realizes, oh yeah, Saku's not a mean person. And yeah, technically Yuko and Yua, they both came to me and they wanted to talk to me. They made a connection and I rejected them. Kenta realizes that he's kind of hypocritical, that he was the one doing exactly what he was claiming they do. And I do think that is sort of a two-sided coin there. In a lot of cases, the people that do turn out that way, that reject other people before they understand them, in some case was rejected at some point, and maybe also read things wrong. But anyways, yes, it gets into Kenta assuming that people that are popular get everything handed to them. I do always like this kind of concept of realizing that, yeah, people do work hard for what they have. Yes, Yuko every single morning probably wakes up an hour early, and she does herself up to look pretty. That's something that she has worked on very hard. She manages her hair. She takes care of it. All these things that people do. Getting up every single morning and exercising. Yes, athletic people have to spend pretty much most of their childhood doing nothing but kicking a ball around, running up and down the street, keeping their athleticism up because they want this one goal. Yeah, I do like that they still acknowledge that there is some bad people. There is still bad jocks. There's still bad people that are athletic. There's still bad popular people. But for the most part, you are upset and jealous of this person, but you don't realize how hard they work for that. There is still something that is earned there. But I would argue, and I think that sort of does come across in the show, at the end of the day, A bad person's going to be a bad person. No matter if they're a jock, if they're a popular person, if they're very smart or whatever, they're still bad people. It's not their status that makes them good or bad people. But there's still an element here where there is jealousy. Kenta believes that why would I try when they're just going to beat me anyways? They have this innate talent. They're geniuses, whatever. But this is cool because even if there is an element here of jealousy, that Kenta is jealous of them, I do like that Saku sort of puts out an olive branch here in the idea that you do realize just merely the fact that you're in this academy, you're a winner. You are one of the smart people. It does sort of play in that idea of you're jealous of all these people with wealth, but you do realize that you being here, you have wealth. You have a value. You achieve something that a lot of other people in other schools would dream of. There is still an element here where you are a winner in the end. You know that, right? You're kind of in the same space. But yeah, then Saku gets into communication. I got a kick out of this stuff when it came to bottom tier character Tamazaki. I guess it's an element where I just don't understand it because I sort of naturally have an element of communication with people. So when I do see stories kind of simplify communication, it does kind of seem funny to me. But I think that some people probably do find this to be a challenge. The idea of how you communicate to people. Just remember these 3 simple things. Say why, I think, me too. Just these little things that kind of sort of open up the bridge to another communication. When somebody says something, do this. It's an if-then situation. But that's when the communication shifts to Saku sort of pointing out the hypocrisy, which I talked about earlier, and the idea that Saku does talk about the fact that he read 10 series in 1 week and he's tired, which shocks Kenta, because again, Kenta believed that he was bringing up light novels and anime because he wanted to make fun of them and that he wasn't taking it seriously. But no, Saku went out, he got a bunch of books, and he started actually reading them, which I hope that they weren't very long series because 10 series of like 8+ volumes would be a lot to read. But he asked him why. Saku, why did you read those books? He says, because I despise people who shit on other people without knowing anything about them. Again, this goes back to what Kenta was saying that they were doing. You don't understand me, and yet you criticize me. You make fun of me without even trying to get to know me. No, Saku did that. He got to that middle point, and he's waiting for you. Kenta, I'm waiting for you. And he proves it by actually reciting the entire story. Reciting the entire story. He's pointing out that they all did that. Saku's pointing out, I did that. Yua, she did that. Yuko, she did that. We all went to this middle point, and we're talking to you, but you're not responding. What was it that you said? Reject us after you learn who we are as people. Again, it is the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy that unfortunately Kenta doesn't really realize. That he hates this, but then he starts doing it to other people. He went online. He was bad-mouthing Saku without even knowing who he was as a person. But yeah, that's when we get Saku hinting at his past. He stands up and walks over to the bookshelf. I do like the fact that up on the shelf we had 2 very good girls. We had best girl Yui Yokohama from Snafu, and then we had Anna from Makane, which that was kind of a nice little nod there up on the shelf. Yes, there was that other girl on the shelf, but we don't talk about her. We don't talk about her. But no, he talks about a great man's childhood. And later on, yes, he implies that is a story about himself and the fact that at some point he was very popular, but unfortunately that popularity brought people looking at him with a microscope. They wanted to find a flaw within him. And they found something. They found that he made a mistake. And then it suddenly kind of turned into literally everybody criticizing him for it. And so he decided to step back. Saku, in a sense, stepped back and allowed himself to fail. He allowed himself to slip up in his studies and his sports on purpose because he wanted people to like him. If people don't like me when I'm, doing really good, what if I just start failing? Maybe people will like me more. Maybe they won't be jealous of me and they'll befriend me. But no, it seemed to have made it worse. Until at some point, some teacher came to him, which I'm assuming at this point means this may have happened last year, ? Because I would assume the teacher that he's talking about is Kura-sensei. Kura-sensei seems to be somebody that Saku is very familiar with and very comfortable with, so I'd assume it would be that person. Because it does seem like Saku does have respect for him based on the final scene of the second episode. I mean, I got a sense of that in the first episode, but it seemed more in the second episode because he literally says that Kura-sensei has sort of this compass that is really good. They're talking about this compass that guides you, and he's like, you have a really good one, Kura. So it does seem like he does respect Kura, or at least sees that he's a good person. Anyways, this teacher, if it is him or not, says that people who are born with plenty of gifts from the gods have a duty to take charge and lead people. So it seems like instead of letting your talents kind of fall apart and not utilize it, use it to lead people, guide people, help other people. And I think that does sort of open the door to what Saku has right now. he potentially, at that point, went out and helped Yua, Asuka, Yuko, Haru, Nanase, Kaito, Kazuki, help these people out, and now they all really like him, and now he's surrounded by people, and he's elevated in a way. So yeah, after he heard that, decided to stop hiding his abilities, went on to better himself with no reservations, then realizing that he had to fly higher and further. And of course, again, that gets into the whole title drop. It describes it as the idea of like flying into the sky, going up into the sky or whatever, getting into a place where people can't reach, similar to the dazzling glass marble inside the bottle of a Ramune. For those that don't know, I don't know why you wouldn't know. A Ramune bottle is basically like soda pop. It's the idea that there's this marble at the top of the bottle and you pop it down inside the bottle. It's the seal, and then after it's popped down, it just kind of dangles around the bottle. So it's kind of protected inside there. It's shielded inside there, inside this glass. So that's seemingly what they're kind of implying that he wanted to seek out to become. A place where he's isolated, protected, and can glitter. Again, I'm really kind of assuming that might actually turn to a story beat at some point. Anyways, he asks who the story is, and he says, that's me. But he also says, I made up 90% of that on the spot. Sure, I don't know. Again, I don't know why they would be that detailed. It doesn't seem like it's that complicated, and why would you lie about 90% of it? I think it's all true. I think he's just saying that just to kind of throw Kenta off the scent of himself. It's a funny little joke there, but it's kind of cool because at this point, I think like Saku and Kenta have a connection. There's finally all those barriers being dropped. It does seem like Kenta at this point sort of trusts Saku enough for Saku to then kind of pivot to say, everything you're learning is false. You've been sitting in here, you've been reading all these novels. I mean, it implied the fact that he was in Taku before because he meets this girl that way. But you've been reading all these novels and stuff, and so you have this false sense of what popularity is. These novels over-idolize popularity, and they also overly demonize it. My life is not easy mode. It's not. I have all these people that are making really nasty comments about me, and they don't even know who I am. Oh, sorry about that. And also implies the people that are around him are evil too. But no, they're all good people. You've met Yuko. You've met Yua. They're good people. Even when Kenta points out that he has easy mode in dating. Yeah, that's true. I could probably get a girl really easy. Yeah, I've got plenty of them around me. But the problem is that that popularity and that charm, whatever that he has, also brings about people that he might find to be good friends, will then confess to him, and then when their heart's broken because he doesn't love them, suddenly they're going to go around and badmouth him. They're going to make me look like the bad guy just because I don't have feelings for them. It's not all fun. Again, that's that whole false perspective that you get from novels and story and entertainment, and trying to break that down so you realize that it's not all glory. It's not everything that you see there. But that's when we finally get into the heart of the matter. Yes, finding out what exactly happened to Kenta. I like the fact that he's like, finally, we get to get into this whole thing. And he's like, wait, hold on. Let me see if I got this right. Literally, Saku just lays it out. He's like, you're totally right. How'd you know that? That apparently, we find out more later on, the fact that Kenta was going to this otaku club, and there was one girl there, and they hit it off. Everybody was hitting off. Everybody's having fun. But it seems like at some point, this is the really nasty part about the whole situation, at some point, this girl literally was starting to get really clingy to him, was starting to kind of make moves on him, was sharing her drinks and getting really close to him, and he thought, hey, she likes me because she's being very clingy. It seems like she's advancing towards me. And he decided to get the courage to finally ask her out. And she said, hell no. With someone like you, never. It was all because, apparently, she liked the leader of the club, and she was trying to make him jealous, and she was using Kenta. And even after they got together, they started making fun of him. That's where it gets nasty. That's where it gets nasty. Now, I do want to make a pause here because there is an element of like, okay, we just established all this other area over here. We're not fully understanding a situation and making judgments. I do understand that you can't really make judgments here. I do want to say that I feel like she is definitely in the wrong, but I do wonder if they might actually eventually get into another side of that story about the girl herself. That would be interesting to sort of kind of break down sort of what he's seen, what she's seen, and sort of the miscommunication that may have happened. But I don't know. They might just leave it at that. They might just leave it at that otaku girl was horrible. It could come down to one day when we do get Kenta finally, built up, improved in his communication, and they do go back to get his revenge, that we find out there might be another side of that story. That would be interesting. But anyways, yes, Kenta agrees to go back to school, but on one condition. He wants Saku to make him popular. And Saku says, hell no. I don't want to hang out with you. I love this. I love this. I actually do like this. It is a kind of a shattering of what you expect, because the expectation here is, okay, if Saku wants Kenta to go back to school, it's going to turn it into, again, bottom tier character Tomazaki. That whole idea of, okay, well, I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to help you with communication, and we're going to pretty you up and we're going to turn you into a cool guy. No, I don't want to hang out with you. Grow up, take responsibility, make your own story. That is such a better statement to make. And I like that he at least says, but I don't mind you getting you on your feet. I'm going to help you by getting you in that door. I'm going to show you a couple things. I'm going to guide you, but build your own story. Because I think that's important. That is much better than saying, I'm going to make you into something that you're not. It's better to say, I'm going to make you into the ability to make your own way. You don't want to become me. I can't make you into Kenta the popular guy. Kenta has to make a story that he's comfortable with. You got to feel comfortable in your own skin. That's the important thing. If Saku were to bring Kenta in there, do him up, make him all pretty, invite him to go talk with people, talk to his group, that's not really helping anybody. That's Kenta sitting in the middle of Saku's group, uncomfortable, going, okay, at least I'm a part of the comfortable group. At least everybody around me, and I'm here and I'm safe. That doesn't make Kenta turn into a person. That makes Kenta just basically wall decoration to Saku's group. Kenta will never be himself ever again if that's the case. He will always try to fit somewhere where he doesn't belong. Kenta needs to walk through that door, have that confidence to step out there, and with his own personality, meet friends that want to talk to him because of what he wants to talk about. You can help him with opening the conversation. He can help Kenta with getting out there more and making that first step. But if people don't jive with him, there's no reason for them to hang out with him. There's no reason for him to hang out with those people because they don't want to talk to him. Kenta, you have to do your own thing. And I'm going to help you with that. I'm going to get you to that door. I'm going to open the dialogue. That's cool. I actually do respect that kind of way of thinking about things. Even though he has to encourage him by saying that, you know, you don't have to be afraid of 3D girls. You want to touch the real thing, don't you? Oppai! You want the real feeling of oppai. You want to do all the other stuff, right? Oppai! Oppai! So dorky. That's my oppai. It was a cool little scene. I did like how they kind of, again, went through the process of breaking down the barriers, letting the guy vent, telling him that he's got things wrong, showing the hypocrisy that he has, telling him how the things that he's reading is telling him falsities, and then going right into the idea of what you could do going forward. I'm going to help you get on your feet. Let's go. But yeah, they go see the mom, say sorry, and then at that point, set up a plan of action, which I do like. Yuko over there cutting his hair at the same time as him telling him that, yes, you need to work on your communication skills, you know, get a little more fit, and then also, yes, we're banning you from social media. But I like what he says. Until you realize how stupid it is to hate on people you don't know, you're banned. I like this because this does go back to earlier. The idea that you making fun of other people and bashing other people and attacking other people doesn't make you more popular. I think this is a very, very strong statement, and I really do fully 100% agree, especially with like social media. Because I've been through hate campaigns, I've seen people doing hate campaigns, and I've learned that I just don't want to get involved with a lot of that stuff because there is an element here where I think a lot of people use it to get themselves up higher, and all it really does is just make everybody look bad. I just really don't get that desire that people have to bring other people down. Now, it does get into a little bit with what Kura-sensei says later on, the idea of bringing people down because misery wants company. But it's kind of a different concept there. But it is the idea of if I can't get higher than you, everybody's always looking at other people to get higher. They'll bring people down, drag people down to their level because they can't figure out how to overcome them. And I feel that is sort of a similar thing here. Kenta is trying to drag other people down because he doesn't like how happy they are. He wants to make them miserable. And until you realize that doesn't do you any good in the end of the day, until you realize that it has no value whatsoever and that you're wasting your time, get away from it. Step away from it. And I do think that a lot of people should do that when it comes to like social media and stuff like that. If you find yourself doing that a lot, it's probably a good time to step away from it because you're not doing anything but just destroying your own image and you're just hurting other people. You're not creating anything. You're not creating value in your own life in the end. But anyways, they wrapped up the day with Saku and Yuka talking together. Again, getting what I talked about earlier, the idea of Yuko kind of implying the idea that he's sort of got barriers up there, that she hopes that she'll bring those down, open his heart to her, and they could talk more. But also getting in a little bit into Yuko's first meeting of Saku. Apparently wasn't a good first impression. She's like, yeah, you do that to people, don't you? I remember when you did that to me. Apparently, when he first met her, didn't like him. But then, again, slowly over time, realized that he's actually a very good person. But yeah, that's when we get Kenta's first reappearance at class. Really cool way to kind of break the ice for people. I don't necessarily believe Saku's right here, personally, because I've experienced this stuff a lot, where you think that if you make fun of a situation, it will allow people to sort of just laugh at it and move on, rather than keeping it a secret and then having people pry into it. I've seen way too many cases where people have tried to make fun of situations and tried to kind of brush it off, but it ends up becoming the butt of their joke all the time. People will use that all the time against them. Yes, in this situation, it does seem like with Saku's friends, they're all able to kind of go, that's crazy. That chick, she's nuts. How horrible she did that to you. And they all just kind of laugh it off. And then, yeah, he's sitting there going, is this okay? Yeah, this is perfectly fine. Let them make fun of it. Let them move on. It works out great this way. But I've seen too many cases where the other individuals, especially in the case of with Saku, you would see the other people in the room that hate Saku will then see that Saku is with him, and they'll start to use that as dirt against Kenta. And I almost thought that they were going to get into this with Saku, and the idea that Kenta wants to be a part of his group and be popular, and Saku's telling him, no, go do your own thing. Because there could be an element here where Saku sees that Kenta would not survive at Saku's side because those bullies over there that don't like Saku are going to go after him, and he won't be able to take it. And that could be a thing later on. Kenta having to realize that being around Saku is going to bring him a lot of hardship, even though he does respect Saku for helping him, that, yeah, he can't take the heat. That the people that are at Saku's side take a lot of heat for being at Saku's side. Yes, Kenta being one person that was bringing that heat. But yeah, I've seen this backfire a lot, so I don't 100% agree with it, but I'm assuming that Saku's just read the room and he knows this will work. But I do like the discussion about banter versus bullying. I do think that's a very important thing to establish here, especially for Kenta, who's locked himself away. He's sort of afraid of what people think of him. Now he's coming back into a social environment, and he's going to immediately think that people are going to attack him. Hey, I've been away, that whole kind of shutting mindset where you've been away so long and you're afraid of coming back, that snowball effect of not wanting to come back, because the more time you spend away, the more darker it's going to be when you get back in there. He's going to be obviously insecure about what people are talking about. And so having Haruto over here make that joke about stench, he's going to think that she's talking about him. Oh, is he talking about me? Am I smelly? No, don't worry. That's just banter between the two of them. You have to learn about that. Eventually, you're going to realize being around people, what's going to be banter, what's going to be joking with people to communicate with each other, and what's going to be actually bullying. And when you find that bullying situation, I'll have your back. That's a really cool thing to think there, because I think that is very important for Kenta to realize at this moment. But anyways, yeah, after this whole scene, we go to the cafeteria, kind of mostly talked about that stuff. And yeah, they did get a little bit into the idea of the banter versus the bullying, and the idea that they all come forward with their fists, and he goes in there and they all pull away. Don't worry, this is banter. You have to get used to that teasing. And that's what Saku's kind of doing right there. You just talked about that earlier. Now let's try it out. It's okay. It's just banter. It's cool stuff. But after the cafeteria, we had this little brief scene with Kazuki. Now, I didn't really get for some reason, the translation they had on the show. I had to actually do another translation of it to understand it, and it made perfect sense. And the idea that Kazuki's coming to Saku, initially he talks about the idea of him always acting like it's all about him, but apparently he is a good guy. I'm not sure why Kazuki would say that, because he's kind of surrounded with people that all presumably have been helped by Saku. So why would he be even thinking this? Unless he's just taking jabs at Saku. Like, you never want to admit it. You always like helping people out. You're helping somebody again. But no, the part that I didn't really get from the translation they had, and I had to retranslate it, was specifically what Kazuki thought of Kenta. And it says specifically that, again, it was like a double negative that they had in the translation, which made it sound really weird. But basically, he's saying that he didn't see this being a guy who lives without making excuses for himself, which I fully 100% agree. And I would think that Saku agrees. They literally had that whole scene with Saku and Kenta in that bedroom, and what was Kenta doing the entire time? It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. I can't get smarter because they're going to beat me. I don't want to do this because they're going to outdo me. Them. Why do I bother even trying? Because of them. Saku is the type of person that excuses every failure because somebody else. He just makes excuses for himself. And Kazuki believes this is the type of person who can't change easily. I agree. You have to at some point realize you gotta stop making excuses. It's very difficult, but Saku seems to think that he can do that. So, it's cool. It's cool. And then we wrapped up the episode with a little conversation with Sensei. I did really like this whole segment talking about the compasses. I think this is really cool stuff, and the idea of people sort of looking at other people and what their compass says. Basically the path, your life, and all that kind of stuff. And I do agree with that. You see that there's some sort of route that you want to go. You're obviously going to look to somebody who has made that, a goal, and you're going to see how they got there. And the idea that nobody has a perfect compass, despite the fact that Saku thinks that, yeah, I think you have a good compass there, Sensei. The idea that nobody has a perfect compass, and the idea that it's all about believing in your compass, which I think is a very important thing. It's not so much that everybody has the right path. It's not the idea that this person has the perfect path. It's more of an idea that you just have to trust in your own. You can't make that walk. You can't make that journey unless you trust in what you're doing. You trust in your values, you trust in your beliefs, trust in your own desires that you're doing. And I would assume that Sensei sees in Saku something really strong there. And this compass is something that he can believe in. It was good stuff. It was really good stuff. And then, yeah, they closed it out with him. A comment about wasting all of his money, his reward on a gentleman's club. It was a good episode. I really liked it. And I talked way too long. I love that. I know that some people don't like really long impressions videos and talking and discussion about a single episode. Some people think that it's overdone. Some people say you blab on too long, but I love this stuff. I love when I can deep dive into a story, really get into the heads of the characters. I think there's a lot of really good subjects and topics this story is getting into so far. That I want to share my thoughts on. It's really cool stuff. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Everybody that stuck around for the entire video, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed it as always. And until the next time, until next week, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll take care.